Good evening, everyone. This is Sinan Ertemel, impresario of Balletistan. Today, I am with a very special guest who needs no introduction in the world of ballet. But let me do a very brief introduction. He is a producer, international principal dancer, the Royal Ballet star, honored artist of Ukraine, Ivan Putrov.
Hello.
Welcome to Balletistan Wednesday Talk.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, so I see that you're in a beautiful, sunny London backyard.
The sun is still shining this side of the world, yes.
Right, so in Istanbul it's almost night. So it's a great pleasure to have you in our Wednesday talk this evening. So we have some interesting questions for you.
Thank you for the
My
invitation.
pleasure.
I'm looking forward to our talk.
So if you don't mind, I would like to start from the beginning. So you are coming from a very artistic family. Both parents are principal dancers in the National Opera of Ukraine. So how did you start? Is it your parents or it grew organically in you?
Well, yes, that's true that I'm from dance world, from theater world, if you like. But my mother danced and she was a leading dancer. My father danced many solos, but was not a principal. However, I've grown up in a theater. I was born nearby theater, the National Opera House of Ukraine. And all my childhood, I remember the performances, art, wonderful books that parents will bring from the touring around the world. As you know, USSR was a closed country, and there were difficulties at getting some um, uh, something unusual or something of open world. So I was very lucky to grow up in atmosphere of creativity, in atmosphere of variety available to me. So in that sense, I was very lucky. Um, Decision to dance, although I've danced and I tried to mimic, say, Michael Jackson, which of course, in the theater world, you would have had the video players and all the cassettes, and I've seen it all as a kid. But dancing wasn't my ideal future. As well, I didn't think much of future, but I didn't think of myself as a dancer. But it's something I love doing. However, it took my mother to persuade me to go to ballet school, which she's successfully done so, and I'm grateful that she's convinced me. And it's actually not until I went on the stage on the stage of the National Opera House of Ukraine, actually, in a small part of Lukashek, the son of the lead character in Lesia Ukrainka's Forest Song. Not until then I realized that that's something I really want to do. That's the only thing I want to do.
Right, and it was the first ballet that I've seen in National Opera of Ukraine, so it also has a very special place in my heart. So can you tell us about your days in Kyiv State Ballet School? Who were your teachers back then?
Yes, I've studied under Iveta Golovchuk and Vadim Avramenko, and they were wonderful teachers. Of course, also we studied with many others, which I'm not going to name now, but one is Denisenko, Vladimir Denisenko, whom I've done classes with, and he rehearsed with me. So it's a very, I think it's a very strong school of the classical ballet that is respected by all ballet society in the world, really. Principal dancers from who graduated or studied in the school are seen in major companies in the world. You know, in American Ballet Theatre, there is Maxim Belotsakovsky and Irina Dvorovenko and Alina Kojukaru here in London. Denis Matvienko, Svetlana Zakharova, who studied there. There are so many. So it's a very strong basis, and I'm very happy that I went to the school. Apart from dance, they also have their curriculum that was so good. We had piano lessons, we had history of music, theater, ballet. It was a very strong multidiscipline preparation of an artist.
Right, and like as you listed, I mean, there were so many big stars in the ballet world from Kyiv State Ballet School, and you participated in some international ballet competitions, right? I mean, especially Prix de Lausanne. Can you tell us about your experience?
Yes, there are a few ballet competitions I participated. One is Serge Liffard. There are some others, but Prix de Lausanne perhaps was more of a cornerstone for me. The head of the jury of Prix de Lausanne, Dame Mel Park, the partner, one of the partners of Nureyev, really wanted to see me in London at the Royal Ballet School. However, I actually didn't really want to leave Kyiv, and I was happy there. But I wanted to see who this teacher was, who the tutor was, and in the end, I left for London because of one tutor, German Samuel. So I came in the summer at first, and for me it was important to see what the training is like, and German Samuel for me was the best tutor. In turn, he studied at the St. Petersburg under Leonid Putrov, and graduated under Kumysnikov. And then later on, he studied as a higher education with Fyodor Lopukov. Fyodor Lopukov is a real giant of the dance world. He was the first person who argued that dancing to symphonic music is not only possible, but that's the future. And if you think 1920s, no one was doing it, but he was the first to do it. And since then, of course, we dance to anything, not just symphonic music. So for me, it was important, this continuation of knowledge and continuation of passing from one master to another. For Prix de Lausanne, before I went to Prix de Lausanne when I was 15, I worked with Nikolai Pryadchenko, the people's artist of Ukraine, probably one of the best dancers in Ukraine for many years, and great master at the National Ballet. It was Nikolai Pryadchenko who prepared me for the competition, and it was also Nikolai Pryadchenko who later prepared me for leading role in Forest Song, the ballet that I really had to work on for a month to prepare. It's after a great poetess of Ukraine, Lesia Ukrainka, and the ballet that you've mentioned. And it's a very difficult ballet, 3-act, full length, 1946, if I'm not wrong. Very, very difficult. Maybe 5 or 6 duets. None of them are easy. It's a wonderful ballet that I wish was seen around the world, but it's rarely seen. I hope one day.
So here, you are dancing with Tatiana Lozova, right?
Yes.
So, like,
Tatiana
well, like we are.
Dancer, yes, it was a pleasure dancing with her.
We hosted her in Istanbul last year in our gala concert. from Kyiv to Istanbul. So while we are watching the video on the screen, can you tell us your career after Prix de Lausanne? You were invited to Royal Ballet School, right?
Yes, so I came to the summer school in the summer after Prix de Lausanne many years ago, and I studied and graduated under German Zamil, wonderful teacher I wanted to work with and study with. After graduating, or graduation was Raimonda, and I've danced with Marianela Nunes. We danced at Holland Park, and we also had a performance at the Opera House in Bade. After that, I had an invitation to join the Royal Ballet as a corps de ballet, and I said thank you. And I've 2 days later, I made the decision to stay in the company. Although I had invitation to the Ukrainian National Ballet at a higher position, I felt that, well, later I realized why I made this decision, that I've joined the Royal Ballet from the lowest rank, in part because in Kyiv, in Ukraine, my parents were well known, and if I would have began dancing from soloist and up, there would have been many fingers who would point out forever that, oh, he's got his chance because of his parents. And of course, everyone got their chance because of their parents. However, I wanted to prove to myself that whatever I achieve, it's my effort. Of course, with help of many, many people, Nikolai Pryatchenko, my mom and dad, German Zamil, his wife Valentina Mukhanova, many wonderful teachers with whom I worked later at the Royal Ballet, say Alexander Gajanov or Natalia Makarova or Olga Yevrienov or Leslie Collier or many, many, Anthony Dowell, so many. But I would have wanted to feel as it's something that I have achieved, and didn't want to have any fingers pointing out that I had any favors. So certainly in London, I didn't have any favors.
Right. So, can you tell us about the roles that you danced in the Royal Opera House? It has a very rich repertoire, ranging from Macmillan to.
The the list is. I've been so fortunate, so the list would be too long. But Anthony Chido, boy with matted hair. Classical repertoire, but Natalia Makarova's Bard, Nutcracker's Sleeping Beauties, Swan Lake's La Sylphide by Johann Coburg in his version. Also, of course, very important that the major two choreographers of the Royal Ballet, which are Frederick Ashton, Sir Frederick Ashton, and Sir Kenneth Macmillan. You see, also another something that attracted me to stay in London after I came to the school is the city, is the society, is socium in the city. The art is, if I can say, plenty and overwhelming in this city. There are numerous galleries and museums, exhibitions and theaters, straight ballet and contemporary dance, orchestra, opera. There is so much that I feel it's a ground in which one can really grow. You see, I don't think things appear out of nothing. There have to be an experience. There has to be an understanding of what's happening, and that understanding doesn't just come from nowhere. It comes from what you experience, what you see, what you are taught. maybe self-taught. So it's definitely the city I wanted to stay in, and I'm still here. And it's a city that I learn from, and it's a city that inspires me. If we're talking about just particularly about the dance, Ashton has a direct connection with Belarus, the great reformer of the dance world. Before Diaghilev seasons or Belarus, um, really the art of dance very much was uh, it was an art, but it was mainly for amusement purpose, if you like. Um, However, since Diaghilev seasons, um, it became more conceptual. The art of dance didn't have to be 5 hour long performance of Don Quixote, let's say, when audience could come in and come out of the audience hall and have a little snack or canapé or a little drink and then come back and watch the rest of the performance. That is no longer acceptable, really. So Diaghilev introduced such ballets as um, Spectre de la Rose, when it's inspired by a poem and it's only 11 minutes long. So it was a complete revolution, and Ashton was a direct descendant of that, if you like. He loved Anna Pavlova. Um, so for me, Ashton's classicism is so important, and to dance his works is not just a pleasure, having worked with direct descendants of Ashton, but something that I hope I can continue with. Uh, Kenneth Macmillan, and I think you showed a few pieces of me in Kenneth Macmillan,
Right.
is again another revolution in the world of dance, where characters are not just developing; it's a psychological development. Sometimes very nasty, very difficult, inexplicable questions are raised within his performances of what's fair, what's not, who, what is the world. So Kenneth Macmillan took the world of dance into another level. One of the pieces you showed was, well, of course, we all love Manon. Everyone knows Manon around the world. Same as Ashton ballets, many people know Ashton ballets around the world. Um, One of the ballets you've showed me in is called Different Drama. Different Drama is after Wozzeck, Georg Bachler's Wozzeck, which is considered by many as one of the uh, beginners of new era in the world of literature, where the story doesn't tell about kings or queens or well-known novels. It's a story of a soldier being tormented by the system. Um, taking such subjects was not a matter of 19th century or first half of 20th century dance world. Um, so Kenneth Macmillan is very important, and I was very fortunate to dance his works. Of course, in the Royal Ballet, the repertoire is so wonderful. It's also another reason why I wanted to stay. And for example, George Balanchine is very well represented, and we work with direct descendants of George Balanchine, like say Patricia Neary prepared me in ballets such as Apollo or Prodigal Son. They are actually both ballets to have been created on Serge Liffard, who we all know is descendant of noble family in Kyiv from Ukraine. Same as Vaslav Nijinsky, actually. So Kiev is very much in the center of the dance world, and I hope that there will be more supports of dance in Ukraine and in Kyiv. And this incredible place I'm in to have come from Kyiv. I hope there will be many more stars coming from my home city.
Right. You started your career around the same time with amazing generation of star dancers such as Maria Anela Nunez, Alina Kojakaru. Can you tell us about your colleagues and how the artistic process in the Royal Opera House is, some of your experiences?
Well, of course, Alina has been in Kyiv ballet school a year below me, and we danced since we were, I don't know, 11, 12. And we danced many times since, including at the Buckingham Palace. Actually, I just remember that we did a little performance at the Buckingham Palace. Yes, Alina is here. Also, Marianella, with whom I've graduated. I'm very happy to follow her career in the same company. As you know, I'm not with the Royal Ballet now, performing around the world, but Marianella is still in the same company. Alina has also left and is with English National Ballet now, and also often performs with at Hamburg Ballet. Well, it's been a wonderful time of, if you like, changing of generation when such giants as Sylvie Guillem, Darcy Basso, Irek Mohamedov, Johnny Cope. We were performing and leading performances, watching those giants at the same time. Of course, there are many more, but Viviane Durante, they were great examples for us at the time when we were actually performing the leading parts. So it was a great experience, and the chances were given to us not just by Anthony Dowell, Sir Anthony Dowell, who was leaving the company as a director at the time when we were coming up, but also by Ross Stretton, who was only at the Royal Ballet for a year and just over a year as a director. He promoted Marinella and myself the same second in his office. After the year we've done of performances, but it was a very interesting time. The Royal Ballet has been changing. Some ballets were returning, some choreographers were returning that were not performed for such a long time. I say John Cranko. We had Onegin come back, and John Cranko refused to work with the Royal Ballet for many decades, and he passed away, and that stayed the same until Ross Stretton. And Jerry Killian, so we danced Jerry Killian. So there were changes coming. It was a very interesting time. Since then, the Royal Ballet developed very much. It's a very well-balanced company. I would say English National Ballet is also great with what they do. Tamara Rojo, what she does, with much less resources, honestly. But I think the Royal Ballet and English National Ballet have a great balance of classical ballet, great neoclassicals, if you like, say Balanchine, and new creations. Very, very important, because new creations for the artist is like air. You must have new creation. New creation doesn't mean anything. New creation means offering something very new, something not seen before, another understanding of the world. And to have this understanding, you have to have the world of art and the society around you who offer this discussion, this conversation. So I don't think out of nothing such great choreographers can appear and create such masterpieces as, say, Russell Maliphant or Wayne McGregor or Javier de Freitas, or in English National Ballet they have a new version of Giselle, and many other ballets by Akram Khan. It's something that really is the avant-garde of today. So I'm very lucky to be in the city and to experience all of this. Just one more thing I want to say. I understand I'm perhaps talking too long, but I was so fortunate in, I think, 2013 to dance Roland Petit's Le Jeune Homme à la Mort. It's such a cornerstone of a ballet by Roland Petit, and designed and masterminded by Jean Cocteau. It's a work that has been done in 1946 on Jean Babelet, and it's again something that was unthinkable of until before then, which is it really questions a young man's understanding of the world. What is the world? What's coming? The time is coming, and nothing is happening. It's really is epiphany of existentialism, if you like. So 1946, if you take 50 years earlier, 1896, that would have been absolutely unthinkable. But I was so fortunate to dance this because for some reason the Royal Ballet have never had Roland Petit, or maybe I missed something out. But when I talked to Monica Mason, my director at the time, saying it's such a wonderful choreographer, can we please have something of his, Le Jeune Homme à la Mort? Yes, it's very good, but it never happened. So I'm lucky that English National Ballet had it, and Tamara Rojo invited me over, and I had experience of working with Luigi Bonino on it, who is the director of the artistic director of the Roland Petit's foundation. Sorry, I keep talking for so long. Some people fall asleep.
I wanted to bring like the Royal Ballet. Like you also performed in the presence of the Queen and the Princess, right? So I have a couple of pictures from those.
Right. Well, yes, that's true. Her Majesty came, and it was wonderful meeting her on numerous occasions, and Prince Charles, and graduation. When I was graduating with Marianella, Princess Margaret was the patron of the school. So art is regarded highly in London. So since the at the Royal Ballet, and since the Royal Ballet, so many people came to and took interest in me as a dancer or my performances as a producer. Say Kate Bush, Grace Jones, Sherry Blair, Beckham. So many people came. I've been so lucky. Philip Tracy, the wonderful millionaire, the genius millionaire, really. I've worked with. He designed for one of my shows, and say another great artist, Gary Hume, designed for a choreography that I've created. So you see, you can't exist in a vacuum. You can, but I think this experiences, the conversations you have with people, the discussion of what the life is very important, and to have such a society is the key, I would say.
So I wanted to bring your
Also, sorry,
comment.
to go back. My favorite, my favorite royal, if I can say, was the Queen's mother. Queen Mary
Hmm.
was the best. She used to come to Opera House often. I've danced for her 101st birthday, and I was promoted to soloist that day, and maybe 10 dancers were or 10 people were taken up to the Royal Retirement Room, where a 101-year-old lady uh,
Mhm.
stood up on her own, greeted everyone who entered the room, and had a
Mhm.
little chat. So I had a little chat with Queen's mother, and it was absolutely fascinating. I couldn't believe. I could see that her um, um, what is it called, eyelids kind of moved a little
Mhm.
bit. So I thought it must be so uncomfortable, but she showed nothing. She showed nothing. She kept conversation. When she learned that I'm from Kyiv, she told me of her friends. I don't remember now, that are also from Kyiv. She talked about Kyiv. No, she was a real champion of arts, and she was a real pleasure. So um, her and Princess Margaret used to come often. Um,
Mhm.
not as much since then. They still come, but they don't take um, art of dance as closely to their hearts. But um, Queen Mother did.
Right. Speaking of like both of them, may God bless their souls. And Queen Mother. I mean, when I watched the show of The Crown on Netflix, she was also like one of my favorite members of the
Oh,
royal
that's yes,
family.
but okay.
Like very sweet woman. So you
She's
met
really.
her in person.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I'm so lucky. Imagine
so
11 p.m. 11 p.m. And you are 101, and you are standing after a whole day of celebrations. People in London marching in celebrations, and you watch the whole 3-hour performance, and at the end you're talking to people and standing on your own. Remarkable.
incredible. So I wanted to go back to your comment about the beautiful balanced nature of English companies, Royal Opera House and English National Ballet. How do you compare like the rest of the European countries? I think like European companies are also maybe having more like contemporary pieces, but Ukraine and Russia is more like classical oriented. And in my opinion, like some of the dancers are not too content about that. They wanted to explore like other genres, like other styles. So, like, where do you see the dance world is like evolving in other companies as well?
Well, you see, I think it's a very difficult question, and it's an impossibility for current directors of ballet companies because how do you balance? Um, the dancer, the artist who is a dancer these days has grown up compared to 100 years ago, 50 years ago, so much that what's asked of the ballet dancer is so much more than what used to be asked. So you're not just told what the steps are and what the counts are, and you go and dance. You're asked to interpret, you're asked to be involved in creation. There's so much more that is expected of a dancer. And equally back, each dancer expects from the ballet company. So just to come in and do it as a job, 9 to 10 in theatre world, or 11, um, is not enough. Um, it's not enough just to come in and do a show and goodbye. And whilst the show are happening, I'm thinking of what my dinner is, and whilst I'm doing ballet class, I'm thinking what I'm going to have for lunch. That is no longer the case. The great example is really so. The discipline is also very different. You are not whipped into what needs to happen, but you have your own responsibilities. Great example is William Forsythe's company, when each artist is really a creator, and they have their own time to come in and warm up and prepare, and then you work. It's a different attitude. So let's say Jean-Georges Navarre, in his time centuries ago, said that one day the world of dance will grow and catch up with the rest of the arts, and it happened already. If we can have a ballet such as Kenneth Macmillan's different drummer and today's new creations, then the world of dance has really caught up with today's world. The balance is very important. I feel that companies in Britain, like Royal Ballet, English National Ballet, have very good balance of classical ballet, neoclassical ballet, and new creations. It's important to keep artists engaged and the audiences interested. And I would say that it was probably set up, and the first initiative, if you like, was by the founder of the Royal Ballet, Dame Ninette de Valois, who is also connected to Sergei Diaghilev, that there must always be a presence of classical ballet, there must always be a presence of neoclassical great choreographers, and there must be a constant new creation. I think many people are staying to this formula, and if you stay with this formula, then you have a chance.
Right, and I think one kind of test is like, where do top artists would like to dance? And I think, like in that regard, like artists like you, I mean, UK is becoming one of the top destinations. So my next question is about your like other ventures. So I think you have a keen interest on the ballet history, and I remember you start in a movie, Right at the Right, which depicts the famous premiere of Rite of the Spring, Nijinsky's like ballet, and you played like that part. Like, do you want to take up acting in the future? So, like, how was your experience then?
Dance is, or dance theater, is where I would love to stay, and that's where I am. And partly that's why, because it's the world that I know and the world that I love. The world I understand. That's where I want to stay, and in part that's why I began producing and creating my shows, artistically directing them. Um, all other things I can do and I enjoy and I want to do them. So acting I can do, but I think it's foolish to think of stepping in from one art into another and expect the same level of understanding and appreciation. So I've been in dance all my life. Since 10 years old, I've been learning dance, and up until now, I've been dancing and I've been creating dance shows. I think it would be foolish of me to step in and say that actually, I think I'm better actors than others. I'm going to act and I'll be better than others. So I think it's a mistake of many. I'm contemplating whether to name them, but it's a mistake that I'm not going to make. But yes, I've done some small things like the movie you mentioned, and let's say Philip Haas directed a piece, a short movie called Butcher's Shop, and Philip Haas is Oscar nominated or maybe even Oscar winner. So he created a piece on one of the Ensor's paintings, Butcher Shop. Sam Taylor Wood, now Sam Taylor Johnson, uh, has created pieces with me or on me, and we are still very good friends, are very connected, and we work together so many times. So I think it's the variety that adds to it. Just staying in the one confined area of dance is not enough for me. I want to see more. I want to see straight theatre. I want to see opera. I want to see music. I want to see galleries, contemporary, classical art. I want to read literature. uh, I don't want to stay in one thing, but uh, the world I love and the world I um, want to stay in and create in is the dance theatre. I think it's the most wonderful art. If you ask me, I think it's the best art in the world. I think it's so dramatic. If I can say one thing before you go, um, you see, we as dancers and as dance creators and dance producers um, aim for something impossible. So when the rest of, for example, when the rest of the world accepted gravity as the fact, we don't. We try to make an illusion that gravity is nothing to us.
Interesting.
But of course, gravity will beat us. It's there. But we try to make it like it's nothing for us. So we try to create something out of physical world that is impossible. But in a way, we're trying to be gods of a sort or semi-gods that create another world, and it's so attractive. It's especially in today's world of today's digital world that um, everything is seen from everywhere and everything is predictable, but not in a live performance of a dance theater.
Right, and I also wanted to bring Belarus that you mentioned. Like Diaghilev collected the best artists of his time, right? I mean, ranging from Stravinsky to even Picasso, Coco Chanel. So definitely, like dancing theater is jewel of the fine arts, in my opinion, as well.
Now, absolutely, variety, introducing the discussion between different arts and what the world is. It's very important. So just staying with the classical ballet or just staying contemporary dance or just staying one something is not enough. I don't take the argument of contemporary dance world that the classical ballet is dead. It's not dead. If it's done well, it's absolutely not dead because it's recreated and it's every time it's alive. Like say Glenn Gould, the well-known pianist, used to say that every pianist has to be a little bit of a composer. So same in dance, a dancer have to be a little bit of a choreographer, has to be alive and truthful now for it to be accepted. And equally, I don't think the argument of contemporary dance is all bullshit also doesn't stand because it's another level, conceptual understanding of what the world of dance is. For example, in my show of Men in Motion, if I can sort of go ahead, if you like, with the subject, where I uh, research, if you like, and portray retrospective of developments of the male dancer in the
That was
post-romantic
my
dance theater. Is that your next
uh,
question?
exactly. Please continue.
Sorry, ask your question. No,
So, like, my question was, I want to. You are like definitely just much more than a dancer. So, I wanted to talk about your first creation, Man in Motion. So, my argument against it from George Balanchine, ballet is feminine. So I think your production is like completely saying like something opposite, right? Like you are showing the strength of the man and the art like created by man. So I want you to like tell us about your creation, like what was the inspiration, and maybe talk about the future of like male ballet dancer. How do you see the like evolution?
Well, male dancers' center of attention may sound radical, but in fact it's not. And it's not for so long now. It's over a century long. And that's really what Men in Motion, or parts of Men in Motion, uh, if you like, movement is to open the eyes to the world, what the world of male dance is. To shred off all the assumptions of what the ballet is. Everyone assumed that ballet is point shoes and tutus, but it's not. It's we also have men, and the center of attention could be the male dancer, not overtaking female. Of course, female form is beautiful, but the world has moved on from since Balanchine times, very far. Um, just to correct you, that Men in Motion is not the first thing I've done. The most incredible thing, which is a fairy tale by Anderson, and is a contemporary ballet written. The score is written by Pet Shop Boys, friends of mine, Neil and Chris. A new contemporary ballet was my first creation that I've started in 2005 or 6, and that premiered in 2011. It takes a long time for the new ballets to be created at Sadler's Wells. Sadler's Wells Theatre is the first theatre of the Royal Ballet. Royal Ballet before it was called Royal Ballet used to be called Sadler's Wells Ballet. So that was a whole other experience. The most incredible thing, a wonderful choreography by Hadi de Freitas, and such a process. We ran it successfully for about 2 seasons, and toured it, and it's filmed by BBC. Anyways, after that, the project was Men in Motion. I felt that in today's world, just showing the form what it is not enough. There has to be an idea that performance is um, um, that performance is centralized by, and one of the shows is Men in Motion, that has been performed since 2012 so many times. It is growing. It's like an exhibition which I can change and present different dances and different choreographies and different ideas. And what it always has is something from the world of Sergei Diaghilev, Spectre de la Rose, when Václav Nijinsky jumped through the window, and he was the first to take the applause for such a success. Throughout the history, including Matthew Bourne's Swan Lake, and Kasian Galizovsky's works, and Nacho Duato's Romanzo, and Ashton Macmillan, so many works, until a new creation. I always have a new creation, which is very important to me. Sometimes usually it's a success, sometimes it's okay. So I have a retrospective of 100 years of development of the male dancer, if you like, from Spectre de la Rose, Petrushka, through to the history of development up until new creation. So I had, for example, Ludovic Ondiviela creating work on that is called System AI, which is about relation of human with artificial intelligence, which we have around us. Our mobile phones, computers can predict shopping lists. They can predict everything what we like, and that's already not today, it's already yesterday. So he took such a difficult subject that has been a great duet with me and Matthew Ball. And say another new creator was Peter Leong, who created a piece on us for Italy and for one of the Kyiv shows. Man in Motion has been such a wonderful experience, and it's still alive. And if not the current situation of lockdown, it would have carried on being performed. But I hope it's not long until it's back on stage.
Can you tell us your artistic process of staging like a production with many international dancers, with companies like around the world? How do you decide on the cast and the program? And maybe another question would be, like, how is your communication with the company directors? It must be challenging, like, to reserve the artist and so on.
Challenging. Well, I'd say every day is challenging, or it could be challenging. The process is really a joint creation, if you like. I have discussion with the artists and with choreographers who are involved. There is an element of freedom, sometimes too much freedom that might not be respected by the audiences, but more often very much appreciated. So it's really discussions. I want to talk to my artists. I want to hear them. I want to hear back from them. Equally from directors who let their dancers go, choreographers who want to create. I want to put as little as little sort of I want to give them as much freedom as possible. Although financially is of course very difficult. I'm not supported by the government or by one wealthy individual, or I don't have all studios in the world, but I have a support of many. Say there are dance work studios in London who are very good to me, and I love them. They provide studios if I need, and the Royal Ballet are very grateful to me, and they're nice to me. They're always so supportive, and Tamara Rojo and the English National Ballet is very good. There is a general support of what I'd like to do. That can only happen if there is a truthfulness in what your project is. So if your aims are true, then the artist's eyes are shining, and their directors understand it, and the audience response really is something different. It's not another 32 footers to amuse the ballet goers that, oh my God, this girl has done 32 footers in the same spot. That is boring. I think what's on offer is bigger, an idea. If you can provide an idea and a high class of dancing, it's really become another level. So, for example, another project, Against the Stream, that is now 1 year old, provides it's really a tribute to the great masters of the dance world. They are usually choreographers, not always, but usually choreographers. And they are the masters who have changed the direction of which way the dance world goes after them. So we come to see a performance and we see what we see, and we think automatically that's how it's been. However, it's not how it's been. It is that way because one individual, one great artist, a choreographer, had such a vision. Often this vision was not accepted at the time, but they had such a great vision that has changed the world of dance. Because after them, everyone who created could not do any other way but the way that it was done, because it was so good. They took the same direction. So in Against the Stream, it's a um, tribute to those great creators of the world of dance who changed the world, and also it's performed as close as possible to how it was aimed to be performed. So let's say George Balanchine or Jerry Robbins is performed by dancers from New York. Ashton Macmillan performed from Royal Ballet from England, and Vaganova and great classics from Ukraine and Russia performed by Ukrainians and Russians, or French repertoire performed by French, because you cannot fake it. You really have something more when you spend your whole time in such an atmosphere of this history. You know what it is, so you are the best person to present it. And in Against the Stream, I collaborate with those people who can bring this together.
Right. I would like to go back to Men in Motion, and you also mentioned another production by Matthew Bourne, his Swan Lake, and I want to hear your opinion about evolution of the male dancers. So that production, like males are dancing swans, and there are some more gender fluid roles. What is your take on this?
Well, you see, swan as an animal is could be male or female. Uh, that's no secret, and it's also no secret that they form couples, male female or male male. So, anyways, for the world of dance, that was revolutionary, and it was um, the first performer, the first swan, was Adam Cooper, who is also a student of German Samuel. Um, it was revolutionary. It was front pages around the world. Um, at the time when it first premiered, where all the swans are male. Uh, it's a great now classic. You know, there are more people, or well, I don't know about more, but there are so many people in London who have grown up on Matthew Bond's Swan Lake version. So their first Swan Lake was Matthew Bond's Swan Lake, and that's what they see. And then suddenly, when they go and see a classical version, they think it's weird. It's so strange. They've never seen a classical Swan Lake. It was strange. So um, this version, which I think is genius, would have been unthinkable 50 years earlier. And it's really about the development, you know, about what your society around you is, how open the society and how developed it is, and continuation of this development. So, um, you know, say Aristotle wouldn't have appeared if not Plato, whom he learned from, and if not Plato wouldn't appear if not Socrates before him, and Alexander the Great learned from Aristotle. So it's about the developing from what you have learned before, and that's in part when London is so important to me, and it's just a normal human development uh, of society. For me, it was important to involve it into Men in Motion, and I I'm grateful to Matthew that now Sir Matthew, that I was allowed to perform it as part of my show, and it's a great classic. I'm sure it will live for a long time.
Right, and you also have some interest of some very old productions which are not performed quite recently. For example, like Spectre of the Rose. How much value do you see in these like efforts?
Yeah, well, Spectre Del Rose, choreographed by Mikhail Fokin and um, danced by Tamara Karsavina, if I'm not wrong, and Vaslav Nijinsky from Kyiv. Um, it's a cornerstone in dance. You know, it's first of all, it was a conceptual creation based on a poem that is 11 minutes long. It's a huge contrast to Don Quixote's that performed around the corner. You know, 5-hour performance where people pop out from performance and go back in. So another important aspect is that it was about the male dancer, and Tamara Karsavina allowed Václav to go forward and take the first bow, which was not the case up until then. So yes, uh, it's a choreography that I dance often, and I've performed and I've taken to my shows often. Same as Petrushka, and same as many other works. Recreation is very important to bring out the history examples and to show them, show the audience what it is. I guess educational part in my performances is also very important. That it's easy to forget the past, but uh, I don't need to go on. Who forget the past doesn't have the future and all that. Um, so I think it's important to show it again and again.
And you are also dancing in like many international venues, including your hometown, Kyiv. So, like, can you tell us about your international collaborations? So, you also became honored artist of Ukraine.
Now, yes, honored artist of Ukraine. Um, I love my homeland. Yes, I've performed at the National Opera House of Ukraine, and I'm grateful to the director of National Opera House, Chuprina, who allowed my show to be performed there for 3 times now. I've also went there as a guest artist so many times and danced many performances, including La Sulfide and Forest Song, which I danced in 2010 at the opening of the season, and Sheherazade
Shehrazad.
by also Fokin, choreography by Fokin, but version by Viktor Yeremenko, former director of the National Ballet. Really great artist, and since I've always rehearsed with Nikolai Pyatchenko in Kiev, but since he passed away, sadly, very young, I've always rehearsed with Viktor Yeremenko. Super professional. So I've been lucky to dance with Tatiana Lyozova and Elena Filipieva and Natalia Lezebnikova and many others. Also around the world, I've been lucky to dance at the Royal Opera House, at Garnier in Paris, and Kennedy Center in Washington, and the Met in New York. And no, I've been very fortunate in my life.
Right. You also dance in Cuba, right?
Yes. I danced in in Cuba. Alicia Alonso's version of Swan Lake, with now director um, uh, of National Ballet of Cuba, Vienxai Valdez. We danced at. I've been to Cuba a few times, but um, one time I danced at the Karl Marx Theater, a 10,000 seater theater, Swan Lake. It was a really wonderful experience. Um, Cuba is opening up from its, well, if you think you're in lockdown, well, Cuba has been in a real lockdown for so many years. They're opening up. The first time I went there with the Royal Ballet, and I danced Month in the Country by Frederick Ashton, maybe 2009. And for example, the change that is happening in Cuba is in 2009, maybe a third of the cars on the streets were sort of foreign cars that are not 1950s America. In 2000 and later, 5-6 years later, when I went to dance Swan Lake, maybe only a third were 1950s American cars, and um, others were European and sort of Soviets. So there were more shops. The society is opening up and developing. I think that important for the world is staying open and introducing variety. Limiting anyone and yourself is not very good. I think variety and differences enrich us. The more variety, the richer we are, the more understanding of the world we have. The world is very complicated, and we have to try to embrace it. And if we don't, I think we are not developing into the future. You know, just think that 100 years ago, women wearing trousers was shocking. Do you think anything about it today? No, because it doesn't matter. Um, well, same now that the world has so many stigmas that surprise me, that I'm not related to at all, but still it has this stigma. So I think we need to free ourselves from those and try to live live freely and introduce as much variety as we can into our world, but there's also personally into our personal lives. And that way we will develop, and that way we have a future, and will help society develop um, and have a discussion about what their life is.
So you live in London, which has a beautiful contemporary art scene, and like as I watched your like career, you are definitely like much more than like a dancer. I see that you are like getting inspiration from like all the different like forms of art. Like, can you kind of tell us about the artistry in the like ballet world? So. Uh, like I see that some dancers are like focusing too much on a technique, right? But not like getting a lot of.
Well,
Uh,
I think there is artistry in every form of our life, really. You know, there are much less artists in the dance world or in theatre than you might think. There are so many people who come in and it's a job for them, and they have a 9 until 9 work. They come in and they go, and they think nothing about it, and they just become what can I say, like workers. You know, of course I'm a worker as well. I work all the time, but and but I think it's important that artist is a creator, and often I see some people who don't doubt themselves, or artists, or they call themselves artists, they're so confident. They know what they're doing. You know, they do this and they do that, and audience must respect it. Well, I think as an artist, it's not like that. It's a tumultuous process. It's difficult. You want to do the best, and it's not easy. So, however, I think that artists or creators, if we call them, exist in all layers of society. So, are real geniuses of mathematics or economics or physics. They are creators. They are artists. Yeah, Leonardo da Vinci. Look, he was an artist, but he created so much. He's a creator. So creators are very few, and um, here in London, I'm very lucky to have example and to follow so many. Um, they are there for you to find, but if you sit at home and do nothing, then nothing will come. You have to go and look for it. So uh, inspiration is important, but it's not just going to arrive on your head. You have to look for it and try to understand and try to create, and only then you have a chance to succeed. I'd say what I'm trying to do is to create shows and to dance, to make people question, to make people try to understand something about their life or about the art. And if this sensation of what they've just seen lasts, then I've succeeded. Now, I think there's nothing worse to come to a show and think, oh, wow, great. And next day you can't remember what it was. I think it's the performances that last in your memory for a long time. They stay inspirational and they keep raising questions. Those performances that are important. Same as books, same as films, same as um, anything you study.
So I also wanted to talk to you about you being a producer, right? I mean, you are trying to talk to not just artists and company directors, but also sponsors and donors. And I suppose it's gonna get even more difficult after like COVID-19 pandemics. So like, what are the challenges of you being an artist, but also trying to be like a manager and producer?
Well, first of all, I think the longer the wait, the more special the comeback will be. So I would have this positive note. Yes, of course, it's challenging, but once you have an idea that is um, convincing and interesting and powerful, and you can inspire with, then people will follow, or there will be supporters. I've been so blessed with so many supporters on different levels, from directors of the ballet companies to the artists, to the people who make ballet clothes, who make costumes, to the people who rehearse, and supporters. It's been wonderful and inspiring at the same time. So I think it's only a temporary problem, really. Yeah, pandemic or the virus will not go, but we'll learn to live with it. And with advances and creators in the medicine, the artists of medical world, if you like, um, the life will move on, will survive.
Right, and I think life is much richer, like with art. And as a person who lived his whole life in theaters, I think it's very obvious that art needs government support, right? But I mean, there are like so many different art scenes. And what is your kind of recommendation for cultural policy. So, like what is lacking in the world of ballet in terms of government support? Do you think is it enough, or do you think it has to be more focused?
Well, every every government matters, or every government is different, and every country is different. The support is the supporting system is very different. So I think what's important is um, to understand that art is the soul of the nation. You know, if we don't, and it's like for humans, if we don't have a soul, if we don't have a intellect, if we don't have a understanding of what we're here for, it's very difficult to understand. Really, if we don't raise the question of why we're here and what we're doing, um, then we're not much different to any animals in this on this beautiful planet, and um, that is the difference. So, if all we think is about economics, is about survival of what to eat now, and not think about our soul, about our inspiration, about the art, dance, literature, music, theater, um, then we have no future. You know, we will be reversing into on the scale of Darwin's evolution. We'll be going back, and if we be going back, then it doesn't look too bright. I want to think that the humanity have the future. You know, so we need art, and the governments can support it in different ways. In America, it's supported differently to Europe, and Europe is supported differently in UK. So I think UK system is the best.
So coming back to now to your personal life, how is your daily routine? What do you do in your spare time? Do you have some time to do classes?
Spare time. What is spare time? I always have spare time, or that has been for so many years my spare time. Um, no, really. You know, as long as you don't have a job that is only a job to you, then the rest is your spare time. I've been fortunate to love what I do, so I don't take it as a job. Um, so all I do is what I love, and I don't have any spare time. Um, as a routine, I do a ballet class every day at home, and um, to keep myself in shape. Once theaters open up, I hope to be back on stage.
Uh, do you follow any specific online classes? Like there are some popular ones on Instagram, or like are you doing
I
by
do my own
yourself?
classes. I've always been doing my own classes if I'm on my own. So no, I'm good enough to do my own class.
And like, do you have some time for reading books, watching TV series, movies?
I read books. I watch movies. Yes.
So do you
So
have?
the last book is Agatha, which is an extract from Man Without Qualities by Robert Musil.
Mhm.
Uh, Very powerful book. How he describes what might be seen as a regular scenes, very strong, like Bunin describing things, but the matters he's talking about are very philosophical. Um, always say uh, the world of yesterday, Stephen Zweig, or the way of pity. Uh, the world of yesterday is actually a very good book to read now. To in a way, I'd say that One might think that this evolution of humanity is rapid and continuous, but it might not continue. It might very easily degrade into complete barbarism and brutality. If you want me to recommend a film is called, I watched it a few times now, called Genius, about a writer and his editor. Really good film. Jude Law is the lead actor, and it's directed by Michael Grandage, a well-known English theatre director.
And I'm sure that we all have some time for reflection and maybe projects for the future. Do you have like any other production coming up? Do you have any ideas post-pandemic?
Yes, there is a project that has been put on hold now that involves presenting Ukraine as a contemporary society, which I'm very much looking forward to. So we'll have to re-evaluate it once theatres are operational. But also, I hope to bring back a piece of work called Weak Law, or No Exit, by French writer, philosopher called Sartre, that has been performed for producers in Montreux that I've organized together with a few people, choreographed by Ludovic Andiviella, and performed in Montreux, Switzerland, with one of other leading dancers and producers, Agnès Letestu. I think it's important to have theatre, to have the arts, to question what's what. You know, I'm sure it will ring the bell to many people in today's world of pandemic, not seeing many other people. Well, Jean-Paul Sartre, one of his sayings is, hell is the other people. So, you know, maybe this time of a lockdown has been very good to us. Time to reflect, time of tranquility, and not having to run after anything. So I'm sure that it will have a burst of explosion of creation afterwards. So I think the world will move on, and I think it will all be okay. And I'm looking forward to new projects in the future, and I'm looking forward to invitations, and I'm looking forward to discussing future with other artists.
Fantastic. I mean, so I am looking forward to seeing your productions, your projects on the stage, and hopefully like someday in Turkey as well, in one of your productions. I would love to come
to Turkey again. Yes, please invite me. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person one day.
Likewise. And so I think we are approaching to the end of our program. It was really lovely conversation with you, following your career and like getting some insights. And like definitely, like I personally learned a lot from you, not just like from ballet, but also your perspective, which was quite inspiring for me. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting. Have a good day. Bye.
And you too. Goodbye.